Hans Zimmer didn't change film music by following the rules. He did it by ignoring what composers were told they were supposed to be. This video explores the untold story of Hans Zimmer, how he reshaped modern film scoring, and why his approach divided the industry before it defined it. It's not about awards or famous soundtracks. It's about how one composer quietly rewrote the emotional language of cinema. By the end, it becomes clear why Hans Zimmer's influence goes far beyond music, and why the risks he took changed how movies are made forever. Before orchestras, before blockbusters, before recognition, there was doubt. Hans Zimmer didn't follow the traditional path of a film composer. He wasn't trained in the classical conservatory system that defined the industry for decades. He couldn't read music the way most composers were expected to. That alone should have excluded him. Instead, it became his advantage. Zimmer grew up fascinated by sound, not rules. He was more interested in how music felt than how it looked on paper. Synthesizers, electronics, and experimentation shaped his early understanding of composition. While others mastered theory, Zimmer learned by instinct. When he entered the film world, the gap was obvious. Traditional composers relied on orchestral precision. Zimmer relied on texture, rhythm, and emotion. Many in the industry saw this as a weakness. Some dismissed his work as simplistic or even unfinished. But Zimmer wasn't trying to compete with tradition. He was building something parallel. Rather than composing music that sat politely beneath scenes, he focused on amplifying emotion directly. His scores didn't just support the image, they pushed it. They told the audience how to feel before they realized that they were feeling it. At a time when film music valued elegance and restraint, Zimmer introduced scale, repetition, and raw intensity. It made people uncomfortable, and that discomfort signaled change. The resistance didn't slow him down. It forced him to evolve. Before Hans Zimmer, film scores followed predictable patterns. Themes were clear, melodies were recognizable, emotion was guided gently. Zimmer disrupted that balance. He stripped melodies down. He used repetition instead of complexity. He blended orchestras with electronic sounds that weren't supposed to belong in serious cinema. The result felt bigger, heavier, and more immersive. This approach confused critics at first. Some called it noisy, others called it lazy. But audiences reacted differently. They didn't analyze the music. They felt it. Zimmer understood something fundamental. Modern films were changing. Stories were becoming faster, darker, and more psychological. The old musical language couldn't carry that weight anymore. Instead of decorating scenes, Zimmer built emotional engines. His scores didn't resolve cleanly. They sustained tension. They lingered. This shift changed how directors thought about music. Scores were no longer background elements. They became structural. Scenes were edited around sound instead of added to it later. Once the store opened, it never closed again. Film music stopped being about tradition. It became about impact. And that impact didn't stay contained to one composer. Hans Zimmer didn't just change how music sounded, he changed how it was made. Instead of working alone, Zimmer built a collaborative studio environment. Multiple composers, sound designers, and programmers worked together, shaping ideas collectively. This was unusual in a field that prized individual authorship. Critics saw this as a dilution. Zimmer saw it as evolution. Film schedules were shrinking, expectations were growing. Music needed to be flexible, adaptive, and fast. A single composer working in isolation couldn't meet that demand anymore. Zimmer's studio model allowed experimentation at scale. Ideas could be tested quickly. Sounds could evolve during production. Music could respond directly to changes in story and pacing. This model reshaped the industry. Many of today's major film composers emerged from Zimmer's studio system. His influence spread, not just through sound, but through structure. The way film music is produced today mirrors his approach: collaborative, layered, and modular. The industry didn't just adopt his sound, it adopted his workflow. That may have been his most lasting contribution. But influence always comes with a cost. Hans Zimmer's success created a new standard, and standards create backlash. As his style became dominant, critics argued that film music was becoming homogenized. Deep tones, pulsing rhythms, emotional intensity pushed to extremes. What once felt revolutionary began to feel familiar. Zimmer was blamed for this shift, even when he wasn't involved. But influence doesn't control imitation. Zimmer continued experimenting, while others copied surface-level elements without understanding the intent behind them. The result was saturation, not evolution. This raised an uncomfortable question. Was Zimmer responsible for the industry's overuse of his style? The answer is complicated. Innovation always creates shadows. When something works, it spreads. When it spreads, it simplifies. And when it simplifies, it loses nuance. Zimmer's work was never about volume or power alone. It was about emotional alignment. When the philosophy is reduced to technique, it becomes empty. The controversy around Zimmer isn't about his music failing. It's about how success reshapes an industry, often in unintended ways. And yet, his relevance never faded. Hans Zimmer remains relevant because he never stopped adapting. While others tried to preserve past successes, Zimmer treated success as temporary. He moved forward instead of looking back. New tech didn't threaten his identity. It expanded it. Synthesizers, digital tools, hybrid orchestration, experimental sound design. It all became part of his language. He understood that film music isn't static. It evolves with how stories are told. Zimmer treated film scoring as a living system, not a finished art form. As cinema changed, his approach changed with it. Visuals became faster, louder, and more immersive. Emotional arcs became more intense and compressed. Music had to match that energy, without drowning the story. Zimmer adjusted, stripping away excess while amplifying feeling. He also understood restraint. Despite his reputation for massive earth-shaking scores, Zimmer's deeply aware of silence. He knows when music should dominate a scene, and when it should vanish completely. Silence becomes contrast. Absence becomes weight. That instinct isn't taught in theory. It's learned by failing, listening, and refining. Zimmer's continued success comes from curiosity, not confidence. He approached each project as a problem to solve, not a formula to repeat. Every film asks a new emotional question. Every score demands a different solution. That mindset keeps his work alive in an industry that constantly reinvents itself. Not because he follows trends, but because he stays ahead of comfort. The untold truth about Hans Zimmer is not that he changed film music. It's that he changed how emotion is engineered in cinema. Before Zimmer, film scores often followed tradition, clear themes, familiar orchestration. Music sat beneath the images, supporting it. Zimmer inverted that relationship. He treated sound as architecture. Music became an environment audiences move through, not a melody they simply hear. A rising note wasn't just music anymore. It was pressure. Silence wasn't absence. It was tension being held back. Zimmer never tried to be a traditional composer, and that was deliberate. He prioritized emotional impact over formal correctness. Synths blended with orchestras. Simplicity replaced ornamentation. Repetition replaced flourish. Critics initially dismissed this as lazy or unsophisticated, but audiences felt something new: immersion. His scores don't tell you what to feel. They place you inside the feeling. Time stretches, stakes feel heavier, emotion becomes physical. That approach reshaped modern cinema. Blockbusters breathe differently now. Trailers build slower. Climaxes hit harder. Entire genres adopted his language of sound. But this influence came from breaking expectations, not fulfilling them. Zimmer trusted instinct over approval. He accepted being wrong in order to discover what worked. Hans Zimmer's legacy isn't about notes on a page. It's about proving that innovation often sounds uncomfortable until it becomes unavoidable. Hans Zimmer's story isn't about talent alone. It's about risk, resistance, and redefining what film music could be. He didn't replace tradition. He expanded it. And cinema has never sounded the same since.